meron daw ipinangako yung Pilipinas. Itotow natin yung ating BRP Sierra Madre sa Ayungin. Nagkaroon po ba ng ganon? China raw ay hindi nagbigay ng consent to be part of the arbitration which the Philippines won in 2016. Ano po ba yung totoo?
Ang madaling sagot dyan, false.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Ako po si Christian Esguera and welcome po dito sa very special episode po natin dito sa Facts First Convos. Dahil makakausap po natin na yung isa po sa mga leading experts ng Pilipinas padating po dito sa United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. So isa po siya ron sa mga instrumental people doon sa paghahanda po ng ating kaso sa Permanent Court of Arbitration na alam po natin napanalunan po natin in 2016. So he is at present our ambassador to Turkey. I'd like to welcome to our Facts First Convos si Ambassador Henry Bensurto Jr. Magandang araw, sir.
Magandang umaga, Christian. Magandang umaga rin sa mga tagapakinig mo at tagasunod.
Finally, nagkausap tayo in the flesh, no? Dati kasi puro online. Virtual. Kumusta, sir? How are you doing now?
I'm okay naman. I'm settled down in Turkey and I'm already rolled my sleeves and doing the work. But of course, as you speak about Turkey, you still think about your country in terms of what it's experiencing.
Yeah, sir, konting baliktanaw, no? Can you talk about your role dun sa pagre-ready ng ating case against China na alam po natin napanalunan natin noong 2016?
Yes. During that time, of course, administration of President Aquino and Secretary Albert Del Rosario, I was asked by the Secretary to help him help him in addressing the issue of the South China Sea. And so, of course, as a professional diplomat or a career diplomat, obviously it's my role and function and obligation to help the Secretary of Foreign Affairs in terms of how to manage and how to approach the South China Sea. And therefore, I did help the Secretary and the Department and the President in terms of managing the issues in the South China Sea. Kasi nung mga panahon na yun, that was the time na medyo lumulutang na yung problema. No? For many years, yung problema nandun, pero hindi natin masyadong binibigyan ng pansin because we thought everything can be resolved peacefully and through negotiation.
This was before the standoff ng Scarborough or
before
after?
The standoff, even before that administration of President Aquino came into power.
So pinag-aaralan niyo na?
In a sense, immediately after, during mischief reefs, of course, nandiyan pa rin yung mga issues. The government has been addressing that, managing it, trying to resolve it, pero nandun pa rin pala. And so it was a learning process for us also. It gave us an idea exactly what China's strategy was and where exactly we were heading. So in a sense, it gave us a very good historical perspective, an opportunity to take stock kung ano yung ginagawa natin, ma-review natin, and what should we tinker with and calibrate so that we're able to approach and manage this issue very well. And in the process of that, obviously, we have to look at all options available to us. And in that context, therefore, one creative option is the third-party adjudication.
Yung arbitration na napanalunan natin.
And eventually, arbitration as the specific modality for third-party adjudication. By the way, I'll make a disclaimer. No? I am not the spokesman of the Department of Foreign Affairs nor the government. And therefore, although I belong to the Department of Foreign Affairs, the views I will express here are my personal views and do not necessarily reflect the views of the institution to which I belong. And
Malinaw po yun. Malinaw.
And I do not wish to make pretensions in terms of getting the job of the official spokesperson.
Don't worry, Ambassador.
In all humility, I am.
Sobrang bait ni Ambassador. Pero yun nga po, at least malinaw po. No? Pero balikan natin, no? Bago natin, kasi mamaya I'd like to ask you about the disinformation or influence operations being done by China para ma-correct yung mga mali. No? Pero pag-usapan muna natin yung kahalagahan kasi medyo mukhang may mga Pilipino nakakalimot. No? Gaano po ba ka-importante yung Permanent Court of Arbitration ruling ng 2016, both as a legal victory and of course in terms of our asserting our rights dito sa West Philippine Sea, na hindi lang purely legal kasi nga merong political aspect yan. Let's talk about the importance first.
Yes. Yung arbitration is very important. I-reduce muna natin in terms of in the micro level among people. And for those who are religious can always refer to the Bible, which in a way also reflects the psychology of human beings as a social animal. We know na pagka may mga dispute tayo, hindi pagkakaintindihan, we try to resolve. That's normal instinct. And you will also note na pag hindi kayo nagkaintindihan, then that's the time you bring in a third party para he can be objective and then give his opinion, essentially ganon. And I think for those who are religious, and I do not wish to put any religiosity on this, pero that's also reflective of the human nature. You do that. And then the third party. Later on, as our community, it becomes a community, we create institutions to make sure that these disputes are not, if not resolved between the disputing parties, meron kang third-party institution that is lawful, legal, legitimate, and has jurisdiction. In the context of the international law also, because the Philippines is one of the members of the community of nations. So we have a community. We don't live as an island. We are not separated from the rest of other countries, but we live in a community. So in that context of a community, it's very important to have that concept of rule of law, because that is the tie that binds us all in that community. The ability of states being equal to follow certain behavior or norms. And part of that norm is pag hindi ka nagkasundo, and that's why negotiations, then a third, an option or an alternative is to go through third-party adjudication. In the specific context of the South China Sea, importante yan, because yung third-party adjudication yan, both parties agreed. This is one of the misinformation. Actually, the two parties agreed to have that third-party adjudication, yung tinatawag nating consent.
One of the propaganda narratives that they're pushing is that China raw ay hindi nagbigay ng consent to be part of the arbitration which the Philippines won in 2016. Ano po ba yung totoo?
Of course, ang madaling sagot dyan, false. Hindi totoo yan. Bakit? Ang totoo po niyan, meron silang consent. Yung consent po nila, paano nila binigay? Yun ang question. Tsaka paano ba, under international law, paano ba binibigay yung consent? Meron pong basically dalawang pamamaraan. Yung una po, yung traditional orthodox, and this is based on sovereign equality of states, hindi mo pwedeng dalhin yung isang bansa sa isang adjudication nang wala niyang consent. Kaya importante yan. But how do we give our consent? Yung una po, yung tinatawag na mag-usap tayo, mag-agree tayo, since hindi tayo magkasundo, dali natin sa third-party adjudication. Tapos yun po, yung consent nilalagay sa isang dokumento, which is called compromise. So sa compromise na yun, i-define nyo kung ano yung issue. Yun is one way of giving consent. But meron pong pangalawang pamamaraan na yung consent binibigay. And this is settled in the international law. Ito po, binibigay pag nagne-negotiate tayo ng agreement, nilagay natin doon sa agreement, ito yung mga dispute settlement. Pag nagkaroon tayo ng dispute, ganito ang gagawin natin. So, nililayout po natin yan. And then, yung consent, pwedeng ibigay na doon sa umpisa pa lang.
Pag niratify yun?
Pag signed, and then ratified. So, dalawang process yun. Hindi lang pag negotiate and then you sign. meron pang ratification.
So ginawa yun ng China?
Ginawa po yun. So with China and the Philippines, we both ratified. Niratify po ng China yung United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Tayo rin po, niratify natin, sinign natin, kasama tayo dun sa mga unang pumirma noong 1982. By 1984 po, niratify ng ating legislature. So we consented. The same is true with China. Ano po ang implication nung pag-ratify nila? Ibig sabihin po, binabound nila by mind you, hindi po sila pinuwersa para mag-sign. Wala rin pong pumuwersa sa kanila para mag-ratify. It was a deliberate decision and deliberate action by the Chinese government to bound itself by the provisions of the agreement. And therefore, lahat ng mga proviso, terms and conditions ng convention, they freely and voluntarily consented to be bound.
May nakita po akong kumakalat na video online. I think sa TikTok yata to. Ang claim was that nag-opt out daw yung Philippines or yung China doon sa specific provision na yun. Doon sa dispute mechanism na yun.
Okay. Yung po sa specific provision yun, hindi po sa buong convention. Yung sinasabi nilang nag-opt out po sila doon, yung po yung maritime delimitation. So, issue po ng maritime delimitation, ibig sabihin, saan ba yung boundary natin? Nag-opt out po sila doon. Allowed po yan. So, it was only on those issues. But the rest of the issues, kumbaga, only on those 3 issues. Outside of those 3 issues, they bound.
Ano po yung 3 issues?
So, if I remember correctly, one is yung maritime delimitation, question of sovereignty also, and then, I think, military po yata yun. No?
Pero itong issue ng yung maritime entitlements,
hindi po
pasok
yan. Pasok po yan. Maritime entitlement is a very important provision ng UNCLOS. No? Ibig sabihin, outside of those exceptions, covered sila.
okay.
Doon sa 3 na yun, allowed naman po ng UNCLOS yan. We have no problem with that. And they opted out, fine, we're okay with that. But the consequence, ang ibig sabihin nun, outside of those 3 points or 3 issues where they're allowed to opt out, bound sila.
So, simplihan natin para dun sa mga baka nalilito. Very technical kasi, no? Kasi ang ginawa ng China, when the Philippines, nung nag-file po tayo ng arbitration case noong 2013, no?
Tama po.
Sabi ng China, we won't participate. And they didn't participate, no?
Tama po.
Pero dahil yung consent, binigay nila the moment they signed and ratified UNCLOS, pasok sila ron.
Ibig sabihin, dahil niratify nila yung UNCLOS, they voluntarily, they consented to be bound with all the legal consequences of the provisions of UNCLOS.
Isa po pong binabato dyan, for instance, yung sinasabi ngayon ng China, meron daw ipinangako yung Pilipinas na itotow natin yung ating BRP Sierra Madre sa Ayungin. As far as you know, matagal na po kayo sa DFA. Nagkaroon po ba ng ganon? Tapos, di ba, lately lumalabas, inamin ni Attorney Harry Roque, nagkaroon daw ng gentleman's agreement between the President then, Duterte, and China na status quo.
Okay. Personally, I have no knowledge of that. When the issue was first brought to my attention, ang pumapasok po sa atin yan, wala namang official agreement.
Yung sa pagtotow?
Sa pagtotow, wala naman din po kaming report that we committed that. Normally, yung mga ganyang commitment, they are a very serious commitment, no? Yung tatanggalin, nandyan yung barko, dahil, di ba, narinig natin na nag-commit daw yung ating gobyerno or somebody na at some point tatanggalin. Number 1 po, normally, napakabigat na commitment yan. And it has to be done within the proper context. Wala pong ganong context. Number 2, yung mga ganyang kabigat, normally, importante yan, dapat nilalagay in writing. Pangatlo po, kaya nga po in international negotiations, importante yung tinatawag nating full powers when you negotiate. Hindi basta sino-sino lang ang pwedeng mag-commit ng bansa in an agreement. Normally po, yung mga merong kapangyarihan na i-commit yung bansa, they have full powers from the president para mag-negotiate and to agree. Wala naman pong ganyan din.
Dito sir, binabanggit yun na context when it comes to such a serious agreement as that, no? Ano ba yung context na yun? Kung sakali man gusto nating talagang, kunwari pumayag man tayo na ito yun, ano ba dapat yung proper channels or procedure?
Normally, let me briefly describe to you yung how agreements are entered into. So bago yung mga tao mag-negotiate or to agree, because apparently this is an agreement and a very serious one, no? And therefore, pinag-aaralan yan, pinag-iisipan yan, and if that commitment you want to have, you want it to be legally binding, may implication, may proseso po yun. Ang proseso po nun, yung mga magne-negotiate, meron silang full powers from the president to negotiate, to agree and to commit with that full power. And second, when they sign, there is a ratification process. So meron din pong format o forum na tinatawag nating formal negotiations. Lahat po yan absent. Lahat po yan walang full powers, wala rin naman pong tao na in-appoint para mag-commit niyan. Wala ring agreement. Everything is in the aspect of allegation by the other party.
Tsaka walang nagsasabi, wala. Panahon ni Erap Estrada, dininay na. Wala pa ako nadinig kay Gloria, kay Duterte, no? Pero siguro po, the other question is, can something as serious as preserving the status quo sa Ayungin Shoal, can that be made simply with a gentleman's agreement? Handshake lang between the president then and Xi Jinping?
At the end of the day, depende sa arrangement. No? But if that arrangement, for example, o yung agreement na sinasabi, quote-unquote, redounds to surrendering your sovereignty, that cannot be done. Because no person from this country can lose a territory. O hindi po sila empowered to do that. In fact, it is a constitutional duty by everyone, especially the President, Congress, to protect the sovereignty. So yung agreement po is an indirect giving out. Hindi po pwede po yun basta-basta. There is a process. Tsaka pinag-uusapan po yun. Especially if it concerns a territory. You cannot give away a territory. Nobody's empowered. There is a process for that.
Sige sir, i-clarify kayo. No? Marami kayong words na binanggit. No? Territory, sovereignty, tas sovereign rights. Isa-isahin po natin. No? Kasi based on what has been made public so far, diba, kinonfirm naman ni Harry Roque, status quo yung pinag-usapan. Pag sinabi bang status quo, under the gentleman's agreement sa Ayungin Shoal, ano yung status quo?
Madaming beses natin narinig yung status quo. And so, we have to understand it in all its facets. In the first place, we have to ask a question, ano ba yung status quo? Are we referring to the status quo na every time pupunta tayo, magpapaalam, na pupunta tayo doon, ang dadalhin lang natin pagkain? Status quo ba yung okay lang na nandyan yung Coast Guard ng China? If this is the status quo that we are referring to, I will tell it's wrong. Very wrong. That's not the status quo that is consistent with our national interest.
Isa pa po,
If we agree to that kind of status quo, it is tantamount to giving away your rights over your own property. Sa madaling salita po, meron kang bakod. Sa'yo yun. Meron ka ng pinanghahawakan na titulo doon. Iyo yan. Pero yung kapitbahay mo, mas malakas sa'yo, pumunta doon. Hindi ka ba sa puwenta? Hindi, pupunta ako, ayusin ko lang yung bahay ng aso ko. Sige, okay, bibigyan ko lang ng pagkain. Parang ganyan. Pwede ba yun? Hindi naman pwede yan. Status ko ba sa akin na nandiyan ka sa lupa ko? Hindi rin tama yun. If that is the kind of status quo that we are referring to, actually, that's very dangerous. It is also amounts to giving up. You know why? Alam naman natin, especially sa probinsya, pag pinabayaan mo yung tao dyan, after a period of time, nasanay na siya, kanya na yan. And you will lose it. And so we have to be able to think strategic and long-term in terms of the implications of what we do now. You don't try to avoid war now because it's been being used in order to create one in the future. What you want is, you want peace now, something that will be lasting and durable. And what that means is, if you want it durable, that kind of peace must be respectful of our right, of other countries' rights also. Only then, when we are able to respect the rights of everyone, including us, will we be able to give importance to the dignity, and that's when there is mutual respect. But whenever that other party is in your land or in your sea, and they are creating a quote-unquote status quo, now we have to ask for their permission, we have to qualify the activity that we can do in our own backyard, that we cannot repair what is in our backyard, that it's okay for us, for them to be there in our own backyard. Mali po lahat yan. Because the moment we agree to that kind of status quo, that agreement to that status quo actually amounts to giving up what is ours.
Assuming na nagkaroon nga po ng gentleman's agreement, although dinenay naman ito ni Salvador Panelo, assuming lang, no? Sapat na ba yung sinabi in an interview ni President Marcos po last year na kung merong mang ganyan, I rescind it? At saka yung ganun po ba, hindi po ba yan void from the very beginning kung yun ang konteksto nun?
Tama po kayo. If there is any act by anyone po that gives away a property of yours, that's null and void from the very beginning, especially if it does not go through the constitutional processes. Nabanggit ko po yung process of negotiation and how a country can commit. Because it's very possible for one country to agree on delimitation, which means you give away some, you get some. That's part of the negotiation. But not any, pardon me for saying, not any Tom, Dick, and Harry can do that. Not any person can do that. There is a process.
Even the president?
The president by himself, that's very dangerous also. That's why our kind of democracy, we have the Congress essentially, and there's a process also. There has to be a referendum perhaps, or a plebiscite perhaps, but it cannot be a decision of one person. That's why in the maritime delimitation with Indonesia, the maritime delimitation that we have, that went through a process. What was that process? We constituted negotiating panels both from Philippines and Indonesia. They negotiated where the boundary would be, and then after there was an agreement, they had full powers to sign, and after that, it was signed. Hindi pa rin siya in effect. It was just ratified very recently. And so that aspect of agreeing on a boundary, remember, whenever you agree on a boundary, you lose something, right? And that losing something, whether it's a sovereign rights over a piece of property or sovereignty, it went through that process. And so it was not just one person. The president, knowing the process, did not do it that way. Because we are a country of democracy. We're a democratic country with processes that is constitutional. And so that was the regular constitutional process of entering into a maritime delimitation. In a way, you can say we give up something in order to gain something. And that process was not done by one person, and not in one single stroke of a pen or gentleman's agreement. It was part of a full-fledged negotiation by people fully and duly constituted and appointed, and the agreement being ratified in accordance with the constitutional process. And that's why that maritime delimitation agreement on exclusive economic zone between Indonesia and the Philippines, even if it was signed, it has no effect until it was ratified by our own Congress. With that ratification by Congress, our commitment to that line delimiting our exclusive economic zone, in a way giving up some and getting some in the process, that is constitutionally valid. That is the process that is legitimate, that is constitutional whenever you talk of giving up certain portions of your territory.
Malinaw po yung protocols, no? Yung sistema, yung proseso. Ito pala yung gusto rin itanong sa inyo, Ambassador. Ano po ba yung protocol when it comes to, let's say, kunwari lang walang pangalan to. Kunwari lang, on principle, ang presidente ng Pilipinas, nakipag one-on-one sa presidente, let's say, ng isa pang bansa. At pinag-usapan po yung ganito kaseryosong bagay, closed door. Pwede ba sila mag-agree one-on-one? O sino yung mga dapat nilang kasama sa kwarto? At after nun, ano po yung dapat nilang gawin? Para malinaw naman po sa lahat kung ano yung pinag-usapan.
Okay. Every president or every decision maker will have their own style. And so that personal style will come into the picture. And it's up to the wisdom of the individual person concerned how to conduct it. That's the first point. Second point, as to what you can commit or not commit, that is not exactly within the absolute discretion of any party or of the president, even the president. The president, when he goes there, will always have the knowledge of what he is empowered or authorized to commit. And in that context, we'll always have the Constitution in mind. Because we are a country of democracy. We are a country of separation of powers. And we also know that our president is the chief architect of our foreign policy. And therefore, as a chief architect, he will have the ability, putting his own style, his own appreciation, how to do it. But it doesn't mean absolute, because part of that process, the parameter by which he can exercise that discretion will always be limited by the constitutional limitations and processes.
Sa ganun, Ambassador, kunwari, closed-door meeting between the President of the Philippines and let's say China, meron ba dapat nagtitake ng notes nun? Are they bound to come up with the report right after that? Para in black and white?
Again, it's not a rigid process or hard and fast rule na ganon, because every individual president will have his own style. But as a matter of prudence, it's always good to have somebody taking down notes. But you also should take into account sometimes tete-a-tete, so that the conversation is more friendly, or everybody's comfortable. They can do it among themselves. There's no rigid rule that prohibits that. Actually, it will depend on the president whether he would proceed on that basis or not. But always, he will be mindful, and he should be mindful of all the policy considerations, all the processes, as he decides on what to commit and what not to commit. And we also have to trust the president whenever he does that, because as a president, he must have the full trust and confidence of the entire nation. Now, that's one thing. But as to what he will commit, will later on be subjected to the bar of those considerations, whether it's right, whether it's legal, whether it's constitutional, etc.
Kaya ko po yan natanong, Ambassador, kasi nga, for instance, paano kung nadulas yung presidente? In this case, assuming tama yung sinasabi ni Harry Roque, nadulas doon, or nasabi niya talaga yon, gentleman's agreement, at ipinaliwanag niyo kung bakit mali yun, di ba? Kung lumabas nga sa bibig niya yun, ano yung parang protection natin against someone like that na magkukommit, which is not allowed in our Constitution?
Well, assuming, and this is hypothetical.
Yes, hypothetical.
Assuming there is an excess, and in law, I think we call that ultra vires. No? Definitely that will be ultra vires, and because of the constitutional processes, there will be certain procedures to correct that.
Okay.
And it should be corrected. But if it is beyond the capacity and the power of the person, it cannot be done.
Pero the fact na ginagamit kasi siya ng China over and over again, no? Sinasabi niya, nag-commit kayo. Miski hindi pa, we don't even know actually kung under President Duterte, yung sinasabi nila nag-commit daw to tow away BRP Sierra Madre. Yung ganyan, pwedeng gamitin for propaganda ng China.
Sinabi mo na propaganda. But the thing is, they can allege whatever they wish to allege. We should assume that they also know the processes.
Okay.
The process of signing, the process of ratification, the process of the constitutional requirement to ratify an action of somebody who negotiated for the Philippines. They should be aware because it's not that we have these relations with them yesterday. We have been engaged with them for a long time and they know international law. So they are aware of these processes and therefore they cannot just allege something like that and not provide the evidence. No? And if ever that was true, they also know it will have no basis because it did not go through the process of ratification. Assuming, for example, that the president makes that commitment, if he is really serious about that, he will submit it for ratification, concurrence by the Senate to transform that commitment into an agreement. Lacking that requirement, that commitment is just a personal something, but not in the level of an agreement that binds the two countries.
So, Ambassador, isa rin sa mga lumalabas sa disinformation ng China, siyempre inaangkin nila yung Ayungin Shoal. Basically, more than 80% ng South China Sea.
90 pa nga, more than.
Naging mabait pa pala ako, no? Paki-explain po yung nakalagay dun sa PCA ruling kung bakit sa atin ang Ayungin Shoal, yung idea ng low tide elevation decision po. Paki-explain po. In very simple terms para maintindihan ng lahat.
Okay po, oo. For us to understand that, maybe it's good to give a little background of yung maritime entitlements. No? So, starting from the island, there are 3 kinds of islands kasi. Under UNCLOS, well, first principle is you cannot own the water without the land. So, you cannot go to the Pacific Ocean using your GPS. Coordinates A to B to C to D to A is yours. It's not possible. The law does not allow that. For any country to have maritime entitlement, it must be anchored on the land. This is the principle of land dominating the sea. One can only have entitlements over the sea provided there is a land over which he has entitlement or a right or a claim.
Lagalagawin natin, sir. Entitlement, karapatan.
Karapatan. So, for example, kung ito yung isla, meron din akong karapatan sa tubig. Pero kung wala yung isla, hindi ako pwedeng magkaroon ng karapatan sa tubig. Ito rin yung sinasabi ng China doon sa 9-dash line niya, meron daw siyang historic rights or over that historic waters. That's not true. Pinabulaan na nilang ng tribunal. Pero before going to that, going back to the principle, land dominates the sea, hindi ka pwedeng magkaroon ng entitlement nang wala yung lupa. Pero may 3 klaseng lupa na tinatawag o isla. Yung unang classification, yung under Article 121 ng UNCLOS, yung tinatawag nating naturally formed islands. So yung naturally formed islands will generate the maximum entitlement all the way to exclusive economic zone, which is 200. Pero meron ding isang klase ng isla, quote-unquote, pero hindi naman talaga siya isla na naturally formed island capable of sustaining human habitation. Ito yung tawag nating bato or rock. Ang pinakaiba niya doon sa naturally formed island, yung unang category na minention ko, yung una, if it is capable of sustaining human habitation on its own, tsaka economic life on its own, then it will generate the full entitlement up to 200. Pero if it is just a rock means hindi siya capable of sustaining human habitation and economic life on its own, hindi artificial. Ang ma-generate niya lang 12 nautical miles. Pero may ikatlong klase. Ito yung tinatawag nating low tide elevation. Ito yung pagpumunta sa Camiguin, merong sand shoal. Ang ganda, no? Pagka low tide, nakikita mo, and then you can go there. Pero nawawala siya pag high tide. Pag nawala siya ng high tide, yung sand na yan, ang tawag dyan low tide elevation. Under international law, yung low tide elevation na yan is not an island that will generate maritime entitlement. It is but a continental shelf. As a continental shelf, kaninong continental shelf siya is a question of proximity.
Okay.
So kung nandun siya within 200 ng isang coastal state, continental shelf siya exclusive nung state na yan.
Which in this case, the Philippines.
The Philippines. And by the way, it's not a territory. So since it's not a territory, there cannot be a territorial dispute over that.
Tagalogin natin, sir, yung continental shelf. Okay?
Yung continental shelf po, mapapansin ninyo, pag nagpupunta kayo sa Boracay, meron pong lupa. Wala naman po kasing isla na lumulutang on its own. Meron po siyang continuity ng lupa. Yung lupa na yun na submerge below the water, yan po yung tinatawag natin continental shelf. So, yung continental shelf na po yan, from the low water mark, di ba? Ang low water mark, yan po yung baseline. If it's a normal baseline. Yung low water mark po, pagpunta kayo sa Boracay, may dalawa kayong nakikitang linya. Yung linya na nakikreate ng high tide, tapos yung linya na nakikreate ng low tide. Yun po yung low water mark, yung low tide. Na, diyan po, pababa, yan ang continental shelf mo. Magbilang ka ng 200, sa iyo yun.
At yung Ayungin Shoal, pasok doon sa 200.
Pasok po sa 200.
So, atin yan.
So, ang sinabi po ng arbitration, and this, the law, no, the arbitral tribunal simply confirm what international law principles say, no? And they confirm na yung number one, question of fact. Ano ba yung Ayungin Shoal? So, on the question of fact, isla ba to, bato-bato, o low tide elevation? So, ang sabi ng tribunal, factually, objectively, based on science, hindi po hulaan hindi arbitrary, but based on science, ito pong Ayungin Shoal is low tide elevation. Ang ibig pong sabihin nun, pag high tide, nawawala siya. At hindi po, ang basehan nila, hindi dahil sinabi ni Juan, ni Pedro, o sino man, but dahil sa pag-aaral, pag-apply ng science, satellite, etc., na confirm nila na talagang nawawala ito during high tide. Ergo, ang conclusion, factually, objectively, ito pong Ayungin Shoal, low tide elevation. So, once you have answered the question, low tide elevation siya, ano ngayon ang implication niya? So, ang implication niya under international law as a low tide elevation, number one, hindi siya pwedeng mag-generate ng maritime entitlement. Number two, continental shelf siya. Number three, as to the question of kaninong continental shelf, minessure niya kung ano yung malapit na coastal state, minessure niya yung 200, lumabas sa kanyang pag-aaral na yung wala tayong kalaban. Walang overlap doon. Klaro na continental shelf siya dahil nasa 200 ng Pilipinas.
Napakalinaw. Tsaka pag tinignan po natin yung mapa, napakalayo ng China doon sa Ayungin Shoal. Sila yung garapal na nag-i-encroach.
Tsaka hindi lang yun. Kahit na pagpalagay natin yung mga ibang bato doon, disputed, pagpalagay natin may ibang umangkin o may ibang nakatira, wala pong maritime entitlement yung mga bato niyan na lalagpas o magko-cover sa Ayungin Shoal. So in effect, talagang undisputedly ours.
Okay. Pero nga, undisputably, malinaw po sa batas, no? So, maling sabihin, let's say, even in reports na yung Ayungin Shoal is disputed.
Exactly. And therefore, suma total, kung sino man yung nagsasabi na disputed dyan, mali po. Paano ba nagiging disputed dyan? Unang-una, teritoryo ba yan? Hindi nga Ang sabi, continental shelf. So, kung hindi siya teritoryo, hindi siya pwedeng subject of territorial dispute kasi wala yung territorial doon. Pangalawa po, wala rin namang overlap, so hindi siya pwedeng maging disputed. Factually na po ito. And because it's not a territory, rather it is a continental shelf, therefore, it cannot be claimed or owned by anyone as a territory and cannot therefore be a subject of any dispute. Diyan, madali lang sagutin talaga yan. May overlap ba? Wala. Nasa 200 ba ng isang coastal state? Oo. Sinong coastal state? Pilipinas. Ergo, ang sagot po, continental shelf siya ng Pilipinas. And sa batas po, Ang sinasabi, yung continental shelf ng isang coastal state, in this case the Philippines, we have the exclusive jurisdiction to explore, exploit, exclusively po sa salitang Tagalog po, tayo lang, excluded ang ibang bansa, the natural resources in the area, living or non-living, organic or non-organic.
Okay. So, mas i-flesh out pa po natin yung binanggit na,
Sige po.
In concrete terms, ano yung mga pwede natin gawin sa Ayungin? Number one, tama, okay lang na nandun yung barko natin. Okay?
Tama po yan.
Pwede ba nating i-develop, let's say, yung low tide elevation na yan?
Tama po. At ang pagpapasya kung anong gagawin sa Ayungin Shoal, isa lang pong bansa ang pwedeng magpasya niyan. Tayo lang po. Kung kaninong continental shelf siya, yung bansa na yun ang may eksklusibong karapatan na gawin kung ano ang pwedeng gawin doon sa show na yun. Kung gusto niyang maglagay ng nipahat, pwede. Kung gusto natin gawing military garrison, pwede. Kung gusto natin gawing artificial land, pwede. Ang sagot po, kung tayo may ganong karapatan, ang China ba may ganong karapatan? Ang sagot po, wala.
Wala.
Kasi po, number one, hindi naman po nila continental shelf yun. Pangalawa po, hindi naman po teritoryan, hindi nila pwedeng sabihin, disputed namin yan. So, wala po talagang basihan by which yung Ayungin Shoal na yan kanilang angkinin. Pangalawa po, ang implication din ng ganun, hindi po pwedeng harangan yung ating mga barko na magpunta doon. Hindi rin po pwedeng umistambay sila doon. Meron silang freedom of navigation.
Dadaan.
But freedom of navigation is different from sovereignty patrol. When they conduct and do sovereignty patrol, hindi na po yung consistent sa UNCLOS in terms of freedom of navigation. Dahil yun po is an act of sovereignty already by another country indicating that they are claiming that, which is wrong because they have no right. Pangalawa po, nung una, ito hindi lang pagkakasunduan, meron na pong tribunal constituted in the context of international law that legitimately confirmed na wala silang karapatan. So all things considered po, talagang walang basihan po.
Okay. So napakalinaw yung panalo natin dyan. Pero ano yung mga options po na pwede natin gawin? Kasi ang reality is that we're being prevented by China from doing our own thing kasi sa sarili nating bakuran. By law muna. Ano ba? Meron pa ba tayo pwedeng dulugan, for instance?
Unang-una ang importante, we're all settled na tayong may karapatan dyan. Pangalawa, kung tayo may karapatan dyan, hindi naman po pwedeng hindi natin i-assert yung ating karapatan dyan. Kasi parang katulad ng natin, pag meron tayong lupain sa probinsya at hindi natin binibisita at hindi tayo gumagawa ng acts of ownership, yung mga ibang tao pwede pong magpunta at angkinin yun. At pag hindi po natin napaalis yun over a period of time, magiging kanila po yun.
Talaga?
Opo.
Parang squatting. Parang professional squatting
parang ganito po
China.
Sa batas. It's not exactly the same, but by analogy, just so that we have, di ba po sa atin, domestically speaking, pagka may lupa ka, nagbabayad ka ng amilyar, etc., alam natin na iyan. Pero pag hindi mo napupuntahan, hindi pinabayaan mo, may pumunta po doon, nagtayo ng kubo, over a period of time, depende po kung builders on good faith, pagka builders on bad faith, alam nila na hindi kanila yan, after 30 years, nagiging kanila. Ito po yung tinatawag nating prescription. Under international law po, pag pinabayaan nating maging ganon, pwede po yung mag-mature into what we call effective jurisdiction. Ang pwede pong gamitin ng kabilang bansa, meron kaming effective jurisdiction dyan for so many years. And i-demonstrate nila, ito yung mga acts of jurisdiction that we have been doing. That's why, pag pumayag tayo at na humingi ng permiso sa kanila o magkaroon ng quote-unquote gentleman's agreement na ipagpapaalam natin o for example, hindi kami maglalagay ng construction materials yan. Those are acts of ownership on their part. So they are evidence to indicate that they're exercising effective jurisdiction. Ayan, no, epektibo yung jurisdiction namin kasi humihingi sila sa amin ng permiso. Kasi nagko-commit sila na hindi sila magko-construct. What does that mean? Recognition on our part that somehow they have a right over that property.
Paano pinapamigay natin?
Ganun po ang kalalabasan niyan 30 years from now. And that's why this generation of Filipinos and policymakers must be aware of what they are doing now, because whatever we do now will have implications in the future in terms of control over that area. Bibigyan ko po kayo ng isang example na related dito. Kanina po sinasabi nila, di ba, 1990 daw nag-commit. You see how China is doing it? So sinabi niya na nag-commit, what else now? 30 years, pag nagkaroon tayo ng ganung agreement at pumayag tayo na humingi ng permiso, di 30 years from now o 20 years from now, sasabihin niya sa mga batang Pilipino na ngayon ay namumuno sa bayan, yung inyong 30 years ago, yung inyong gobyerno, yung inyong mga leader, ito yung commitment nila. Commitment nila, hindi maglalagay ng mga construction materials. Pagkain lang ang dadalhin. Yan yung commitment, In legal terms, you know what that means? That means we are recognizing their authority over that area.
So ito yung
and it can be used against us. And that's why we have to be careful with this. Ito yung mga implications. That's why whatever agreement or actions we are going to take in that area, we must always think of the future consequences. Because at the end of the day, if you notice, ito yung sinasabi ko, for us to be able to understand yung South China Sea, we have to expand the timeline in understanding the pattern of behavior. So for those people who are saying na walang negotiation, think back, look back, see what happened. We actually negotiated. And we tried, in all sincerity, we tried to settle. But what has happened is they keep on changing the status quo. Kaya ang status quo na yan, we have to be very careful about the use of the word. Because anong status quo ang pinag-uusapan natin? Because if we admit that the status quo now, that we at this time, and this is the status quo, na okay nandiyan ang Coast Guard, that's wrong. That is not the status quo that we should agree on. O yung status quo na hindi kami magdadala ng construction, that is not the status quo that is in our favor. And so we have to be very careful about that.
Yung sa mischief rate naman, dahil can that be considered, Ambassador, as effective jurisdiction by China? Dahil nagtayo sila ng installations doon?
Yun yung value ng ating arbitration. And that's one of the reasons why we filed arbitration. Because kung hindi tayo nagkaroon ng arbitration, yung kanilang de facto possession or de facto occupation, later on, over a period of time, can mature into a de jure possession or ownership using the modality of effective jurisdiction. And that was one of the reasons we filed arbitration, because now, dahil meron ng arbitration, may klarong decision yung tribunal na part siya ng continental shelf and part siya ng exclusive continental shelf, to be more specific, ng Pilipinas. So, sa madaling salita po, ang China dapat mag-isip ng umalis sa mischief reef.
So ito po yung importance nung consistent na pagka-file natin ng diplomatic protest?
Exactly. Yung pagpa-file ng protest po, meron po yung value legally, politically, and part of an overall strategy. Ang value po niya legally, of course, you are showing and demonstrating that we never acquiesce to your claim. Some people are trying to reduce the entire discussion into something like this. No? If you stand up for your rights, you are for war. And then, pagka you are for peace, pagka pinayagan mo sila na gawin yung ginagawa nila. O yung parang mag-agree lang tayo. I think that's wrong. That narrative should be corrected because that's not how it is. We have a right. And it is our obligation to stand up for our right. Standing up for our right does not mean creating war. These are two different concepts. And it is obligatory and it is just right for any country, for any government na tumayo sa karapatan natin. Because if we don't do that, who will? And does that mean we are for war? No. This is what we call now, ito yung fear that they are trying to instill on us. Obviously, that's oversimplification. And it's not true. Sana po, ang ating pagtayo sa ating karapatan sa South China Sea, hindi lang po ito burden ng Pangulo ng Pilipinas. This is a shared burden by all Filipinos po. In fact, including the international community, because the implications is not just for the Philippines, it's not just for regional peace, but on a global basis. And so we have to do our part. And part of doing our part is to learn, to understand, to research, so that we know all the issues. And when the time comes that we have so much information and we learn, we will be able to do what is right in terms of helping the government, helping the president carry the burden of protecting what is ours.
At dyan po nagtatapos yung ating Facts First Convo ngayong araw. Maraming salamat po sa panonood. At tulad po ng sinabi ni Ambassador Henry Bensurto, sana mas pag-aralan pa po natin yung issue. Dapat mas maunawaan po natin yung mga issues na nakadikit po dyan sa West Philippine Sea. Dahil napakalinaw mo naman po talaga kung sino po yung nang-encroach at kung sino po yung may tunay na karapatan dyan po sa ating bakuran. Again, ako po si Christian Esguerra. Maraming salamat po.